Hello, so creative, is Faustina here. Welcome to another interesting tutorial. On today's tutorial we are going to learn how to cut and sew this beautiful blazer that you are seeing on the screen. It's actually my first time of sewing blazer and I'm so glad that it came out so fine. I made it for my sister birthday shoot. Me and my sister, we have the seminar measurement, so you see how fitted and fine is looking on me, and that is exactly how it looks on my sister the day she came for the measurement of her blazer and pants. The pants was given 10/10, and even the blazer, I was so wow that it came out so fine. So if you like to learn how I cut and put it together, you should grab your seat and your popcorn and let's dive into the drafting table of this blazer. Like, I was so happy when I saw the outcome of this blazer. It's giving this corporate look. So let's dive into the sewing and cutting of it. I made use of London crepe 3.5, but I advise you get 4 years so that you can get everything that you want very well, because I did management. So I've gone ahead to lay my pattern on the floor. I'm marking out my starting line into several places and I'm going to rule it out like so. And after getting the starting line, the next thing we are going to get is our lapel line. I used to call it breaking line. This line is the line that you're going to use to make the overlapping of the blazer. You know, the blazers used to overlap each other. That the type of blazer I sew is not the one that you wore with shirt. It's those ones that overlap each other, so you have to put your overlapping measurement of 2 to 3 inches. So from the starting line, I'm going to input my shoulder divide by 2 and also my neck width of 3 inches, which is my basic neck width of 3 inches. From that shoulder divided by 2, I came down by 1 inch to get my shoulder slope, and I'm going to taper it to my neck width of 3 inches. And from the shoulder slope, I'm going to mark out my armhole depth, which is also known as my chest line. And how to get it: your bust divide by 6 plus 1.5 inches, and anything you get is what you are going to use and mark out your armhole depth. And I went ahead to rule it into several places and get my straight line. So from that, my chest line came down by 1.5 inches to get my bust point, because my sister was not around to get the measurement, so I have to maneuver every measurement. So from the starting line, I also came down by the under bust of 12.5 inches into several places, and I have to rule it out. And after getting the underbust from the starting line, I also came down by my front waistline of 17 inches into several places, and I went ahead to rule it as well. And after ruling it, the next measurement you are going to get is our blazer length. So because we want the length to be done, I went ahead to come down by 32 inches into several places. Before then, I was contemplating if I should do it 30 or 32, but I ended up using 32 because according to her, she wanted it to come down very well. Even at 32, she was still complaining that it did not come down very well. So if you want yours to come down very well, I can advise you do it like 36. So from my waist, I came down by 9 inches to get my hip line, and I rule it out. And I'm going to label all these mark out measurements so that we know what we are working with: our hip line, our blazer length, our front waistline, our under bust, our bust point, and the chest line. So after getting it on the chest line, we are going to mark out our shoulder divide by 2 again in order to get our armhole straight line. So after getting our armhole straight line from the chest line, go up by 3 inches and come in by 1/2 inch and taper it to the shoulder slope. And on the chest line, we are going to impute our bust divide by 4 measurement plus 2 inches is allowance, because blazers don't fit perfectly on your body. They have like a little bit ease. It's not a fitted blazer, so I added 2 inches is allowance to make it not to be fitted. So on the waist, I divided my waist into 4. I also added 2 inches is allowance plus 1 inch sewing allowance. So if you want your waist to be defined, you can go ahead and add only 1 inch is allowance instead of adding the 2 inches, on the waist so that your waist will be defined. On the hip as well, I did my hip divide by 4 plus 2 inches is allowance. And on the blazer length is what I had on my hip line is also what I added on the blazer length, and that is it. Your hip divided by 4 plus 2 inches is allowance. So what we are going to mark out now is our nipple to nipple measurement, which is our bust span measurement. So from this our center front, I'm going to come in by 3.5 inches on my waist hip line blazer length. On the bust and bust points, we are going to stop at the bust point, and we are going to join the lines together to get a straight line. So when we join the line together on the waist, we are going to open up our dart leg by half inches on our waist hip line and our blazer length, and we are going to join it straight like so. After joining the dart leg, we are going to replace this 1 inch that we added on the hip line blazer length by the side in order not to run out of measurement when joining our blazer. So we have to replace it, if not your measurement is going to shorten. And after replacing it, we are going to complete our dart leg by so. You see how I place my pattern curve in a slanty way to the bust point, and this is it. The next that we are going to put is our shoulder dart. You place your shoulder into 2, get the midpoint of your shoulder and taper it all over to your bust point like so. So we are using shoulder dart for this blazer. You can either use your shoulder dart or your English princess dart to get your perfect blazer. So I said let me try my shoulder dart, and on the blazer length by the side I came up by 1.5 inches in order to slanty the side, like the slant will not be pointy. I slanted it, curve it into our dart leg like so. So after everything, what we are going to do now is to get that v-neck for our lapel. So I'm basically going to alter our neck width to 3.5, and I'm going to now determine how wide or deep I want the lapel to be. So depending on how you want your cleavage to show, you can even bring down the length of your lapel to be at your waist. You can also bring it at your waist, but I want mine to stop at my under bust. So I'm going to go ahead and rule it out like so, which I later altered to be 2 inches below my under bust, but is after drafting I'm going to bring it down to 2 inches below my under bust, which had it been I also did it to my waist is also going to be fine. So after getting our neck depth, what next we are going to do is to go ahead and cut out our drafted pattern. Before you go ahead to cut out your pattern, make sure that you label all the patterns so that you don't get confused with the back, because they will be looking like the same. So after cutting the front pattern, what we are going to now cut is the darts. We are going to cut through the darts and remove the parts we don't need. So watch me closely and see how I cut out our dart, because we won't be needing it. After cutting it, I'm going to throw it, we won't be needing it. So the next thing we are going to do now is to go ahead and come down by 2 inches. Like I said earlier, I still went ahead to come down by my under bust by 2 inches below my under bust, and I still went ahead to reel it out like so. So I will go ahead and cut out the extra pieces because we won't be needing it. Though the cleavage was not showing, had it been I wanted the cleavage to show, I would have still come down by my waistline so that before I will lap everything, my cleavage will show a little bit, but I don't want my cleavage to show. So when we put in our lapel, this is how it's gonna be. So when we put in our lapel, this is how it's gonna be. It's not a cut together lapel blazer, it's extra joined lapel blazer. So this is how our lapel is going to be when we put our lapel, and that is it. The next thing we are going to do that is to put our side bust dart. The difference between your front waist and your back waist, like I always say, your front waist is always longer than your back waist because of the presence of bust at the front. So after adding our side bust dart, we are going to still go ahead and close it because we won't be sewing it on our blazer, we are going to close it on our pattern. So when you close it, you're going to use your masking tape to tape it down. You see that when we close it, we still have a little bit of excess by the side. That excess, what we are going to do is to bring a pieces of pattern and replace it and also complete it like so. That is how you complete yours. If after closing your side bust and you find out that you have a little bit of excess by the side, you have to go ahead and complete it with a pieces of pattern. So this is it for the drafting of the front. We are going to move over to the back. So for the back, what we are also going to do is to first of all mark out our starting line into several places, and after getting our starting line, we are going to go ahead and rule it like so. So after ruling it out, what we are basically going to do now is to impute our shoulder divide by 2 and our neck width and also our shoulder slope like we did to the front. And after getting our shoulder slope, we are going to mark out our chest line. The chest line is the same chest line that you added at the front, is also what you are going to add at the back. The next thing we are going to do is to mark out our back waistline, which is 15, while the front was 17, into several places, and I also went ahead to mark it. So to get the length of your back blouse or gown, what you're going to do now is to minus the difference between the front waist and the difference between the back waist to the length of your gown or anything that you are sewing. So the difference between my front waist is 2 inches and the length of our front was 32. So 32 minus 2 will give us 30. So the length of this our back now is 30 inches, and it won't affect anything. When you join it by the side, it will still fit perfectly well. So if you try out this method and it didn't work for you, come back and beat me. I'm gonna check so once you close the front side bust, everything is going to rhyme, and if your client fit it, it's going to look perfect on your client. So on the chest line, I'm going to also impute my shoulder divide by 2 in order to get our armhole line, and I'm going to find the midpoint of the armhole line and go in by half an inch. I'm going to taper it all over to our shoulder slope. Before we complete our armhole curve, we are going to do our waist tightening on the waist because our center back is not straight. Nobody have a straight center back. We always have a slanted center back. So on the waist, I came in by 1 inch, and I'm going to slant it all over to our neck tip like so, and also slant it all over to the hip line like so. And we have successfully get our slanted center back. So after getting the slanted center back, we are going to now go ahead and impute our bust divide by 4 plus 2 inches is allowance. Like I said earlier, blazers are not fitted, so you have to add your ease allowance so that it will be easy or free on your body. So after adding the 2 inches is allowance, depending on how free you want it to be, though, you can go ahead and add like 1 to 2 inches, even to 3 inches if you want it to be more freer. And on the center back, which is the waistline, I'm also going to impute my waist divide by 4 plus 2 inches is allowance plus 1 inch that intake. And on the hip line, my hip divide by 4 plus 2 inches is allowance and also 1 inch that intake, because the dart is going to run from my waist to my hip and to the blouse blazer length. So after adding it, I'm going to use my pattern curve to curve it like so. And also on the side, I'm also going to come up by 1.5 inches like we did to the front, in order to give it a slanted part like we did to the front. Yeah, I'm going to now slant it back to our blazer length like so, in order to eliminate pointy parts. That is the reason I did that. So we are going to now impute our nipple to nipple measurement from the initial center back. We are going to be imputing our nipple to nipple measurement in order to get a straight line. That is the reason why we are using the initial center back, in order to get a straight line. We don't want our dart to be slanted. So we are going to open up our dart by half inches on the waist, hip line and our blouse length, and after opening it up, you are going to go ahead and rule out the dart legs like so. So after ruling out the dart, I'm also going to pencil it all over to the chest line like so, and also going to use shoulder darts on the back as well. So I'm going to get the midpoint of my shoulder and I'm going to taper it all over to the chest line. And for the neck width, I alter it to 3.5, and neck depth is 1 inch for the back, and I'm going to curve it like so. And our drafting is ready. We now go ahead and cut it out. So watch me closely and see how I cut out our drafted pattern. So you cut through all the parts that you drafted. So after cutting both the back and the front, we are going to transfer it to our London crepe fabric. That fabric, I also went ahead to get a cotton lining for it, and also hairstay, which we are going to use to give the fabric stability. So after cutting all this our drafted pattern, I went ahead to transfer it to my fabric. So by the side, I added 1.5 inch sewing allowance, and other part I added half inches allowance. Every other part is half inches. It was only by the side that I added 1.5 inch sewing allowance. I also went ahead to cut the lining, and the lining is 1 inch shorter than our main fabric because we are going to use it and turn it. And for the front as well, I added half inches every part and 1.5 inches by the side. So this is the end of this our tutorial. We are going to watch out for the sewing part because I don't want the tutorial to be that long. Thanks for watching.